Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world. This is another edition of Darkness in Dublin. We find ourselves today, or should I say tonight, at a warehouse that is currently very much under construction. It is a three-level warehouse that currently has no occupants anymore, however, other than guards, which seem to be very much aware of a man in a suit wearing a construction helmet, walking around taking notes. At this point, there is a limousine driving, driving in front of the building who just picked someone up who can't really actively go visible along. A blue person.
Thank you, because I'd like to
Yeah, yeah.
point out that
There you
I
go.
think both our appearances would be a bit odd if
Mhm.
Nosferatu didn't have obfuscate on, which I can't imagine he wouldn't. But anyway, yeah, Anais will get out of the car, as usual, dressed in the long black robe with her hood up and her white hair kind of tucked underneath it, looking so far down that at least at first glance, hopefully no one will see her face. She'll immediately look for shadows and will most likely stick to them as much as she can, as she is waiting to, be pointed out where to go.
She,
Without
as she arrives, the keeper will take her hand and sort of lead her into the construction site. It is not made for people to walk around a lot. However, there are a few rooms that are secluded and have no workers in them as they are being prepared. So he takes her up to the first story of the building, and here she can see the beginnings of a lounge bar. The bar is already there, but there's no tables. Some of the glass is inside the frames already, some of it is not. It is clearly at in between stages of finishing. And he then offers her a seat of a area he prepared for the three of them to meet.
sure, she would have, of course, bowed if, or when the keeper had shown up. Yeah, follows him, and as he points out a seat for her to sit on, she will do so. She'll look around. Interesting choice of location.
Yes, this is location owned by myself and Dr. Green. It will be part of a nightclub Mrs. Green wants to open, and I have offered to do her books.
Let's see.
I'm not sure if Dr. Brightman knows exactly where he needs to be, so I'll be going downstairs. Don't worry, you won't be interrupted here. I've ordered the men not to come here while I am having visitors.
Mm, of course.
And
Please
then,
do not let me keep you.
then Alexander will slowly walk downstairs in order to wait for Dr. Brightman to arrive.
At precisely the time that was specified, um, Michael will walk up carrying a briefcase. He is wearing his mask of 1,000 faces. This looks like a very nondescript scientist. Wearing the white lab coat, the pristine white lab coat, and his usual looking like he's a um, usual looking like a professor clothes underneath with the tweed jacket, the corduroys, and the suspenders and the tie. He's wearing his glasses, and he's accompanied by a wolf.
A wolf.
Yes.
Are you obfuscated? Because you're bringing a wolf to a construction camp.
He is wearing Mask of a Thousand Faces. The wolf looks like a Siberian Husky, even as a
Alright.
collar.
All right. So as you arrive with your dog, some of the men in the construction camp will look at the dog. Some will actually make remarks appreciative of big dogs. Some of them are dog lovers. But as you approach the keeper, he will look at you, straight at you, and then look at the animal you brought with you, and he says, "I didn't expect that. I haven't made arrangements for the dog."
Baru will be fine. He's it was the only what's what I'm looking for? It's in the back of my brain somewhere. It was the only compromise I could make with my friends.
That's understood.
You would rather Baru be here than King, I will say that much.
Both of them are welcome.
No, don't. King will never come here.
That's fine. That doesn't make him less welcome. Please follow me.
Michael will place a hand on the back of his dog, and the dog will look up at him and will actually run off. Don't worry, he won't get into trouble. He's very well trained.
I assumed as much. Please follow me. As Alexander walks up the stairs to the now makeshift launch area and construction, where you can see the previous guest still sitting there.
Michael will stop and will look.
Anais
Has
will
the prince met her yet?
Yes, of course. Otherwise, I and you wouldn't be here.
Has she been vetted?
Well, that's why we're here. But please, take a seat.
Michael will look right at her, and he's going to say something in an archaic language. Do you understand Enochian? Have you ever read the Book of
Oh,
Nod?
no.
Do you have any Nodist lore?
No.
Okay. So what do you do when he says that at you?
She'll look interested. She'll, like with the keeper, she'll make a short bow and says, "It is certainly interesting to choose to address me in a language that I do not know."
He's going to look over at Alexander. That's one hurdle passed. I am Michael Brightman, Primogen of Clan Nosferatu, Doctor of Genetics, Zoology, Biology, Medical Doctor, and so on and so forth. It was a test, and you passed. Well, one of many tests. He's then going to go and he's going to sit down.
Alexander smiles as he kind of understands why the doctor is testing, and he approves. Can't be too careful, right? So as they both sit down, he says, "I would like to offer you both something to drink. I have the feeling both of you are going to decline. However, I'll offer it nonetheless."
Your feeling in regards to me is correct. I'm afraid I haven't had much of an appetite as of late.
Your offer is very much appreciated, but I am quite fine. However, I would hate to interrupt, but would you allow me to introduce myself to the Primogen?
I think it's time that we do so. Please, Dr. Brightman, I have the pleasure to introduce one of our newest visitors in the city, a visitor hopefully willing to stay if, by the graces of our prince and seneschal and influential members of our court, may I introduce Anais Vauquelin.
It is a pleasure.
A pleasure to make your acquaintance. He will then reach into his jacket and he will pull out a ferret. He'll whisper to the ferret, and the ferret will walk over and kind of sniff at an eye. And then the ferret will look back at him and crawl back inside his jacket. Second test, sorry.
Annie says the inoffensive to animals merit, so, you know.
I know that's why I had it
Okay.
happen the way it did. Otherwise, it would have been a little different.
Okay. I do prefer cats over ferrets, but interesting.
Kodo is quite an adept little spy, as well as a good judge of character.
So, we are gathered here today because the introduction and the willingness of the prince to allow one of her kind to stay has to do with the fact if the current influential Primogen agree with her being in the city on our side, obviously.
Michael will nod his head and he's going to look at an eye and say, "You do understand our trepidation, right?"
Oh, of course I do. I expected nothing less.
I've actually met several of your blood before, one of which was a former bishop of the city by the name of Mariposa. Mariposa. She seemed to impress upon me the understanding that her presence within the rebellion was not of her choice, but she made the best of it she could. As such, there is a predisposing in my perception when it comes to the Kiasid that they might do whatever they can to be free of their shackles.
I think there are many ways in which a person can be shackled.
Saskia, can you speak up a little bit? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Sorry. I think there are many ways in which a individual can be shackled. I wonder to which she was referring.
The allegiance, obviously.
In reading some of Mariposa's notes that was left to me, it seemed to me that she would rather have been involved only with herself and her own studious research than have anything to do with the administration of the rebellion.
She is correct.
And yourself.
I used to have a very pleasant time in the library of the University of Bordeaux.
And what of your own personal research?
Everything got destroyed in the fire.
Fire?
Yes.
A fire set by what I believe to be our enemies.
Oui. The Sabbat came to France and Some pack found it necessary to set the university on fire.
They did something similar in New York in the beginning.
They are destructive beasts.
Indeed.
Some of them have a cunning that would seem to decry being a beast. Unfortunately, they've never met one that was able to put that to a more beneficial use.
There is, after all, a beast in all of us. How we put it to use, that is up to our minds.
It's fairly correct. So, what were you studying in Bordeaux?
I think the simplest explanation is that I studied alchemy.
What form of alchemical focus were you looking at? Simple transmutation, molecular excitation, genetics?
My studies were mostly into finding a connection between, well, what is left of a soul and the blood and how it influences each other.
So a metatheocratical approach? Interesting.
Indeed, I thought hemoglobin never as a carrier of soul or particles of soul. Interesting indeed.
A soul is tied to a body. For us, it can be viewed differently. But still, we are driven by our blood, and our blood influences us.
Correct. To connect the soul with skill.
Well, that would be the ultimate goal, yes.
I understand the way of science somewhat. Not really a practitioner, more of a theorist. Find it very interesting.
Indeed, though, my research has always been grounded a bit more in provable, tangible forms. But when your primary focus in science is the betterment of all life, you can only work in tangibles at that point.
Well said.
I will admit, though, there are certain aspects of Vitae that do not pan up and do not show proper identification under a mass spectrometer or an electron microscope.
Some of my brethren and sisters are very capable. I am still young. I am still learning. Your research sounds interesting.
Well, it's been a work in progress for a long time. Currently, I'm working on more of a beneficial evolution of animal kind.
An improvement.
In some ways, I believe that it's possible that animals can be more beneficial to kindred than humans.
If only the opposable thumb in communication would be some of the things that you could breach.
Well, I've been very meticulous in my notes. However, I do keep all sorts of firewall protocols to make sure that humankind does not become aware of my research. It's a practice I've been maintaining for a long time.
I do hope that in the case of your unfortunate demise, hope it will never come, your research will be shared among your friends and your family, so it could be beneficial even after you pass.
There's no need to worry about that. I've already annotated several wills in regards to the disposition of my research, my pets, and other projects that I've been working on. Of course, I haven't been able to focus on that lately, especially since the world's close to ending.
Yes, that's why we're hurrying this project all around us. See, the Dr. Green would like to hold a, what was it called again? And he literally gets out a paper and says, "Oh, Y2K party," which is something the young people seem to enjoy. It's a sort of final goodbye party, if I get the drift right.
Must be a reference to the theorem that the world is going to end in the year 2000 because the computers would not be able to properly computate.
Yeah, I believe she mentioned that. Yeah.
That's been gone for 19 years and people still think about. Oh wait, sorry, I forgot we're 2 years in the future. 21 years and people still think about that. Interesting.
Oh well. As long as she wants a party, she can have her party. She can have her club. I don't mind. But I make sure that if we have this here, it will be fit to be another Elysium in due time.
That's good. I can't imagine we have any anymore.
Well, not those that are usable by all. I am still continuing to build the museum. However, a project that intricate takes so much time.
Indeed. Well, my clan should have already finished laying your foundation for you.
Yeah, I try to inspect it every day, and I know you have. Your clan has, which I'm very grateful for.
Well, it has been mutually beneficial in that regards.
However, Dr. Brightman, if we would have another guest that is allowed in this city, then she would need perhaps your approval. So how can we make sure that this approval is given with the justified result of your tests?
As far as I can determine, she does not show any signs of being a convert or a possessor of forbidden lore. And according to Kodo, she's humane. Something that would not have typically flown if she was a long-term member of the rebellion.
I would not lie about this. I was raised within the Sabbat, but I chose to walk my own path at some point, and then after they destroyed all my work in Bordeaux, I did pay them a little visit with some friends. After that, I came here.
Well, I do have some connection with Trinity University if you need an introduction or two. Just let me know. As of now, Clan Nosferatu has no issue with you being in the city. Keep in mind, though, that you will be expected to honor and obey the traditions. All the traditions.
Yes, I am aware of these traditions.
What's the fifth one?
Ah, I knew you were, at the moment I said it, I knew you were going to ask something. Give me a moment to actually, because out of character, I don't know.
Oh.
I mean, I'm unfortunately not a walking encyclopedia.
You want me to help you and give the answer?
No,
No, I mean out of character.
I know.
Okay.
We are. I do think I have an idea, but I'm not entirely 100% sure anymore. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Ah, yes. The fifth tradition is the tradition of hospitality.
You will find that that is a very important tradition to keep in your mind, though I would not say as important as the masquerade or destruction, but hospitality in particular. The zoo is my domain. I can give people access to it if they want, as long as they do not feed there. All of the sewers are Nosferatu domain. If you have any issue with that, speak to the prince.
I do not have an issue with that. I would probably have some difficulty walking into the sewers, as an ace is 6.5 foot tall.
Well then, we won't have a problem.
I might at some point be willing to negotiate an exit from my haven, an escape route, as you would say, but I would not simply build one without discussing this with you, of course.
Of course. If you need any help, we do have security experts among my clan. We might be able to make an arrangement for you.
Well, since I cannot flee into the streets that easily because I do not have the ability to present myself as one of the mortals, that might be an interesting proposal.
You may find it beneficial at some point to learn how to make yourself look that way, or at least to make yourself able to move unseen.
I could not agree with you more.
Very well then. Is there anything else that requires my attention, Keeper?
No, doctor. Your attention has been most useful.
Mm, I would hate to interrupt between two officials of this court, but if you would agree to me staying within the city of Dublin, I believe we will need a signed paper for that. The prince demands evidence. Of course.
Michael will will open up his briefcase, will reach in, and he will pull out a piece of paper. He will then pull out a pen. He will prick his finger with that pen, and then sign in flowing red script. I, Dr. Michael Brightman, Primogen of Clan Nosferatu, hereby permit sorry, I've got to look at your name there. Anai Vakalin of the Kiasid blood permission to remain in this city and affirmation that she has passed the test that I have set before her. May she hold the traditions in her heart. Sign, and it will sign with his name.
Would you like a witness to sign as well?
Michael will then draw a line underneath his name and write witness underneath it, and then hand over the pen to you. Best not to use that pen. He'll take the pen back, pull out a different one for you.
As you do that, the keeper already has his own pen. It's a very thin silver-looking pen, like sterling silver-like, and he does the same. He pricks into his hand, not his finger, but into his hand, and then we'll draw the same one and say his title, Keeper of Elysium, Alexander Rothschild, and then a signature, and then gives the paper back to Anais as proof.
She'll wait for the ink to dry and then carefully rolls up the document. Will nod, sort of bow towards both of them. I do thank you for the trust that you place in me.
It's those who seek knowledge, those who seek to preserve knowledge, will always have a friend in me.
That is good to know. Perhaps we can compare research at some point.
Perhaps. Until then, I must be back downstairs. I've already passed my allotted limit, and if I'm going to wake up in hell, I'd rather do it surrounded by my friends. Forgive me.
Alexander rises up from his chair as you say, "Forgive me," assuming that you will leave.
He will nod his head, close up his briefcase, and he will take his leave.
Yeah,
As Alexander leaves, Rothschild will look at Anais and simply say, "Would you like the limousine to bring you back home?"
Yes, he can return me to the same address that I was picked up in. That would be a pleasure.
No problem. And at that point, I'd like to end the scene unless somebody wants to do something.
Nope. Michael will reconnect with Baru, and then he will cloak them both and leave.
All right. As the limousine is called, I'd like to end the scene. Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. And good night.